Well, you guys are back. You strangers. Woo! Feels like it's been forever and a minute since I saw you guys. Look at me keeping you on your toes, saying I might do it tomorrow. I might do it early in the morning. I don't know. But either way, it's good to be amongst good friends and good company. Good morning, Tam. Chloe, Walking Dead, she's here. I love it. I love it. So, before I get to it, hang on, Angela. She said, I'm beginning to feel a little offended. You haven't said hi to me in a while. Girlfriend, I'm right here. You seem to miss me when I say hi to you in chat. No worries, it happens, and sometimes it could just be my old ass eyes. OJ, please get your ass down, please. So glad you're here. Yes, Chloe, welcome to the secret show. Now, on Friday, we have a secret meeting, as some people call it. Secret meeting. All right. Tell me, what do you think is going on in the Riley Strain case? I have not put a playlist together for all the shows we've done about Riley. But what do you think is going on here? Let's take a second and tell everyone, again, happy Wednesday.
Oh, guess what day it is? Guess what day it is? Huh? Anybody? Julie, hey, guess what day it is? Oh, come on, I know you can hear me. Mike. What day is it, Mike? Leslie, guess what today is?
It's hump day.
Oh, it is. We're halfway to the weekend. And just our little inside joke, because when people throw shit our way, we have our own ball mitt and we throw it right back at them. So you want to call us mean girls? There you go. Or, basically anything is any shade of pink. So, Snow, hashtag you can't sit with us. Well, if you've heard around YouTube, some people don't want to sit with us. I've been kind of called a lot of names lately. That's okay. I'm rubber, you're glue. Whatever you say about me sticks to you. Isn't that how it goes? Jules of All Trade is in here, and she said, this case has my full attention after seeing the family's interview. Me too. Let me tell you what. I had my ass handed to me because I said on my own community page. Well, OJ's also an owner. I said, unlike Kylie Rodney's family, the family of Riley aren't buying this. They're not buying it. They're on a mission. They want a second autopsy. They want to know why he was found with no pants, no wallet, no boots. They want all the answers. And people said to me, how dare you talk about Kylie Rodney's parents? Look, they got all the time in the world to sue Ryan Upchurch. His goofy ass. Who would take him seriously? He almost had tears in his eyes the last time he was on my show and said, you can't mess with me. And I said, look, dude, I don't know who you are. I'm a George Strait fan. Snow was in there having to calm the chat down. People were going nuts. Sorry, some people don't understand the truth. What would stop you from finding out what exactly happened to your child? I can't even imagine. Angela said, I love George Strait. Me too. Oh, me too. He is the king of country music. DT Driver and I, we have a lot of conversations about this. He still says it's George Jones. Well, I'll just let him have his picnic. That's okay. But nobody would stop me. Let me tell you a story. And I have many shows about Michaela Jones. For those of you that know, you know. I've done many shows about Michaela Jones. She was missing several years ago. And her family was told by law enforcement, the sheriff actually, that she OD'd. Her mother said, no way. They had a second autopsy after finding her body because they were out looking for her. This is after she went to a party. After a second autopsy that they paid for out of their pocket. They didn't have News Nation. They didn't have a hot shit GoFundMe. And by the way, I'm not picking on any family because, hey, if you can get it and it brings justice to your child, do it. The back of her skull was crushed, amongst other things. The amount of, I have to say, rugs in her system was minimal. Not even near close enough to an OD. So when I said on the community tab, unlike Kylie Rodney's parents, Riley Strain's parents, they want the answers. They want to know what happened to their son. I have my own theory, and I've been wrong before. That's why it's called a theory. But something happened, and when he was speaking to his mother and said something about this drink tastes funny. In Nashville, especially at certain bars, they have a saying about the women that hang out there. Some are like paid to sit around and make the locals, not the locals, sorry, the tourists feel like, hey fella, how you doing? How you doing? The fraternity brothers were still partying. Let's go through it. Let's go to the beginning. no water in his lungs, no pants, wallet, boots. Many doctors have spoken about this and said to go into the water and not have one drop of water in your lungs means you were dead when you got in there. And I'm not a doctor.
Disturbing new details in the death of University of Missouri student Riley Strain. The 22-year-old's body was recovered from the Cumberland River in Nashville last Friday, 2 weeks after he went missing during a night out with friends. Tonight, we've learned some disturbing details about how he was found. We've learned he was found without his pants, his wallet, or the cowboy boots that he was wearing the night.
The boots. The boots as well. No water in his lungs, no wallet. Pants, the whole 9 yards. Now, there's a lot of geniuses on the internet, as we all know, and they will say, well, when he got caught under the barge, it ripped all that stuff off. But it's not on any of the shores. It didn't wash up on the bank anywhere, and they're looking for it. Riley was 6'7", and he was known to always have a belt because, well, you don't want your pants to fall down. I have a big ass, so I don't have to worry about my pants falling down, okay? And I normally wear elastic waisting. True. I'm not a real fashionista. So he's basically naked from the waist down. And Nashville Metro does not want to answer questions from the family. So they're getting their own autopsy. And let me tell you what, that about took an act of Congress to get his body released to them. If you've ever seen a man take off his cowboy boots, you know they almost break their damn ankles getting them off. Chloe Jade said, yes, I have been paid to go to places in the past when I was younger, so they have pretty girls to make the bar look more desirable in Florida. They have the same thing in Nashville, Vegas, lots of hot spots. And to keep the customers there, the patrons there.
He vanished. Surveillance video captured some of his last known steps on March 8th after he left the downtown bar where his fraternity brothers were. They were all partying together there. It was about 8 miles away from where his body was found. His disappearance mobilized an army of loved ones and strangers alike banding together to look for signs of Riley before the search came to a tragic end. A preliminary autopsy found no signs of foul play in his death, but the family is not completely satisfied tonight. They have ordered a second autopsy with even more tests that will potentially give us more insight into what happened. And joining.
Okay, so the toxicology is probably going to take another month and a half. Amy in Boston said, same here. I was a shot girl at many clubs in my day. Tell you what, you hotties, I was never. Nobody ever paid me to stick around the bar to keep people in there. But I'm around beautiful people. Let's do a poll. If something isn't adding up with your child or anyone in your family, what would stop you from getting the answers? We all know it's not going to bring Riley back. We know that. I even had some comments like that. Not from one of us, not from one of our friends. They're like, it doesn't really matter because it's not going to bring Riley back, Brooks. I don't know why you're making the parents feel worse. I'm not talking to them. They're the ones wanting answers. I support what they're doing. And you know what? If their suspicions are wrong, then they're wrong. But they will have their answers.
Joining us now, family friend Chris Dingman. Chris, thank you for coming on the show again. I understand that Riley has been returned home. His funeral will be happening on Friday. So we're obviously thinking of you all right now, and I can't imagine how difficult all of this has been. But I want to ask you about this second autopsy and some of the new information you've learned. What's new here?
The family did have a second autopsy, actually in Tennessee, following the Metro Nashville autopsy from a private individual company that does that. The original autopsy came out just like theirs did, with no obvious signs of trauma, as in weapons, guns or knives or etc. But they were able to do a little bit more testing on specific items. One thing that threw the family for a loop was the coroner going on record with a news person in Nashville stating about the lack of water in his lungs. It raises more questions. I'm not a crime drama person by no means, but usually water in the lungs means that, they were alive when they went into the water. So more questions. We hope they're going to get some answers with the toxicology.
No water in his lungs? So you're telling me that when he fell into the water, okay, I'll play along. He falls into the water, drunk as a skunk, let's say. Okay? We all know drunk people don't get hurt. Look who survives car wrecks. Drunks and kids. So he falls into the water and you're telling me that he didn't gasp for air one time? Are you kidding me? Not even one time. There's no river water in his belly, in his lungs. You know what? And I left it alone. Because, I certainly don't want to be accused of being one of these. I mean, could you imagine how horrible would that be? If you look on the screen, I don't want to be one of those. That's OJ's job. But I did pay a little bit of attention in high school biology to know that to drown, you got to have water in your body.
I just hope that this doesn't get swept underneath the rug, because the family deserves more answers than we have.
What about the boots, Chris? Tell us what you've learned in terms of what Riley was wearing and what he wasn't wearing when he was discovered.
Riley, we were told, which blew the family away. It actually went out on social media, and I screenshotted it and sent it to our war room, and was like, who in the world is this? Who is releasing this information? Because at the time, certain family members didn't even know about that, which really kind of blew us away. Not sure how they got that information. Once again, one more question. But unfortunately, the only thing that was found with him, as the police stated in the report, was the watch and the shirt. Everything else was not with him when he was found.
And if you can describe the boots that he was wearing, because that could end up being significant.
His mother was pretty sure they were Justin's, and they were a square nose style cowboy boot, kind of a flat color. Once again, the jeans were, I think, buckle is what the jeans were. We already knew about the Michael Kors billfold,
All missing. Fun fact. You can't dry drown when you're underwater, especially submerged for as long as he was. My middle son wanted some boots for his birthday. And like most people, when they get cowboy boots, they get them like a half a size smaller because the leather will stretch out, you know, through sweat and everything like that. He had to steam them to get his feet into them. And then, of course, you risk the blisters and everything to stretch them out. Let me tell you what, you'd have to be in a damn tsunami for them to come off, along with your breeches and your belt to come undone. Fatal Paper Cut said, and you know who else didn't have water in their lungs that indicated drowning? Kylie Rodney. And if you see the comments on the community tab, community post I made on the channel, I said, unlike Kylie Rodney's parents, these parents are not taking no for an answer. Instead of looking into what we're talking about, I had a bunch of dum-dums coming after me going, how dare you talk about Kylie Rodney's parents? They're hurting. They're hurting. The hell they are. They cleaned up and walked away. And I had a lot of faith in her daddy that he would do the right thing. He didn't. All he's doing is suing Ryan Upchurch. Who cares about his goofy ass? He had nothing to do with the outcome of her case. And I don't even like the bastard.
There's specific things that we've been out in front of this entire time looking for in case this did come up. So we're hoping now that maybe that they will come up so we can get more answers.
So his cowboy boots were not on when he was found, and his jeans were not on, and his wallet was missing. Do you know, Chris, if he was wearing a belt?
That I do not know, unfortunately, but in one of the pictures we went back and looked at, I'd always preach to the boys about keeping their billfold in their front pocket. Just to being in clubs, it's real easy to get pickpocketed. And the one picture where the boys are all together outside, if you look in the right front pocket, we're pretty sure that's where he had his billfold. So the billfold should have been secured in his pants. Unfortunately, we don't have those answers right now.
Last time we spoke, you mentioned that police had told the family, this was right after his body was discovered, that there were still some people that they wanted to talk to. We know there's a homeless sort of camp in that area. Have they been able to talk to those people? Have you learned any more on that front?
We have not been notified. Actually, one of the people of interest, a little bit after an hour Riley was found, I was back at that scene and just happened to see that person. And so we had a group of volunteers that kind of followed the gentleman. We called the police, let them know that we had found him because we hadn't been notified they had talked to yet, and was told by the police that, you know, that was no longer a person of interest. They had somebody else they were interested in. But we know from the homeless people that live.
Okay, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a nurse, but something hit him hard. I'm going to take down the captions. Give me a second. 9:35 p.m. Kicked out of Luke's 32 Bridge restaurant and bar. 9:35, stumbling on Church Street and 3rd Avenue. 9:47, seen crossing 1st Avenue to Gay Street. 9:52, police body cam shows exchange with an officer. My untrained eye said he seemed fine then. 9:55, phones last ping near the James Robertson Parkway and Gay Street. March 17th, his bank card is found. Then on the 22nd, the barge operator, not the United Cajun Navy, realized there was something wrong and his body was under there. There's a lot going on here because, for one, Nashville wants tourists. That's no secret. Luke Bryant and the people that own his bar / restaurant don't want to get sued. This is not some off the beaten path, hole in the wall bar. It's right on Broadway.
Lived there, that was the person that was supposedly up on the road when Riley fell into the bushes or whatever happened, and he yelled back down that, this was just somebody that had been drinking. It was okay. So once again, a little more confusion. I hope that the ball hasn't been dropped on this. There's numerous people in the videos at the detention center that coincide with the police officer's body cam and a timestamp where they show up on footage still walking north. I strongly believe, and it may just be a love family one knowing that wanting some more answers, but I think there's somebody out there that knows what actually happened that night, and we would love for them to come forward, and we need some more info.
Thanks so much for watching. Go to
All right, I'm going to put the link up if anybody wants to come up and discuss your thoughts on this, because I have a ton. I sat back, hands up in the air, like I'm surrendering, like, yeah, I'm not touching this. But when I heard that the parents wanted a second autopsy, I said, woo. Woo! Good for them. Britt said the witness saying everyone at the hotel was freaking out, or it appeared that way. The one kid who hurt his hand but wouldn't disclose why, Brooks. I sent a message to Jinbug. Because she has been all over this. She's like, no, there's more to it. There's way more to this. We know he went out the front. And the one buddy went back upstairs. And then the next day, after 1 o'clock, they filed a missing persons report. Then the parents were told they couldn't find Riley. A lot has come out about the girl he had been dating. She was not there. That there was some sort of rift between Riley and his frat brothers. I can name them off alphabetically, but I'm not going to. Jules of All Trades said the news report saying they reported him in the AM while the timestamp shows almost 2 p.m. I made the same mistake. To be quite honest, I made the same mistake. I thought it meant 1:13 in the morning, and it was the next day. But the parents want a second autopsy.
Laid to rest in his hometown of Springfield, Missouri on Friday. The 22-year-old's body was found in the Cumberland River near Nashville earlier this month, nearly 2 weeks after he was reported missing. That happened on the night of March 8th, after he was asked to leave a downtown Nashville bar. He separated from his fraternity brothers and was not heard from again. Caitlin Becker joining me now. And Caitlin, Riley's parents have actually ordered a second autopsy, despite the police autopsy that's already been released.
So the preliminary autopsy results are out, Hannah. We're still waiting for those full results. They don't come out until toxicology comes back, which sometimes could take weeks or even months. But the preliminary cause of death, according to law enforcement, was accidental. But because of some facts about how Riley was discovered, how his body was discovered, it just didn't sit well with his family. So they ordered the second autopsy. Take a look at what a family friend had to tell our Brian Enton this week about what really concerned them about how Riley's body was found.
One thing that threw the family for a loop was, the coroner going on record stating about the lack of water in his lungs. It raises more questions. I'm not a crime drama person by no means, but Usually water in the lungs means that, they were alive when they went into the water.
What about the boots, Chris? Tell us what you've learned in terms of.
Angel P, are you available to grab the link and come up? If you're super busy, I totally understand, but we need a medical professional to explain how somebody. Oh, there's Kristen. Well, hello, Kristen.
Hi, how are you guys?
Good, honey buns. Works better now that you're not in the car.
Or at the dentist or being a mom.
That's okay, girlfriend. You got to take care of you first.
That's right. And those babies.
I'll always take care of the babies first.
That's right.
And what do you think?
I always thought that Riley Strain's case was a little out of the ordinary. I lived in Tennessee for a little bit. I was kind of a traveling girl before I became a mom. And when I went down to visit Tennessee, we went during the day and it was completely busy. So I couldn't imagine what it would have been for the night scene. I believe that there's a lot of things that happen in big cities like that go unnoticed. I had seen some comments that people had said that he was murdered, and I think for Riley's mom to just get to the bottom of it is what's really important, and I believe foul play happened with Riley Strain.
It seems that way to me, too. Jules of All Trades True Crime says, I know damn well if Kylie's family had wanted a second autopsy, a crap ton of us would have gotten together and ran fundraisers to pay for it, and that is the truth. I look at the case of Michaela Jones. Her mother drained her 401k, her husband's grandfather, you name it, and they got it done. Let's bring up our friend Angel P. Angel P, you are the medical professional on here. I owe you $1 million copays.
I'm scared.
How does someone drown without water in their belly, lungs, brain that has been submerged for so long?
Well, my understanding is obviously that the longer the body is in the water, the more the chances increase of water getting in those areas. However, a dry drowning, from my understanding, is when someone's in the water, they start having spasms in their larynx. And because they have those spasms, it kind of works as like a lid on something. So the water cannot get down into the lungs.
But didn't they say that there's only not very many cases where that would have happened, but most of them had head trauma related to the cause of death before that happened with the dry drowning?
I don't remember hearing about the head trauma, but yes, that happens in less than 10% of people. That's my understanding.
I believe I heard an autopsy expert say that 9 times out of 10 in dry drownings, that they say that there is either a head trauma or a cause of death before the water has hit the human.
Right. Absolutely. I believe that. And I believe that's what happened in this case.
Well, and from what we know, just what we know, not what we can speculate, is that there was no head trauma from the medical examiner.
Right. They were saying that, from the outside, looking at the body, I think they said there were no obvious signs of trauma. And they've done the MA's done their thing there in Nashville or wherever. And, the families asked for a second autopsy, as you were saying, which I'm so glad they're doing that. But, right now we still don't have toxicology. And I'm interested in seeing what the toxicology says, because the mother said on the news that he had texted her that his drink tasted weird.
Mm-hmm.
But But I will say this, I live in Tennessee. My daughter went to college in Nashville. I was up there like every weekend for 4 years. And there is a history of unusual things happening in this area of Nashville. There is a history of people getting drugged and other things that I won't go into. But, there was a big homeless camp not far across the street from where he was walking there.
And see,
And
that's what gets me too, because as a woman that my mom, I didn't go to college. I did come from a very well-rounded family, but I kind of lived out on the outsides of life, you would say, for so many of years. And so living that lifestyle and having that kind of mind frame at one point, I would see them targeting him. I mean, he would be the perfect opportunity to rob and maybe essentially take care of. And I know that sounds really morbid, but the world is actually very sick, and until we open our eyes and actually accept it, we're never going to see what's really going on. And so when you say that, and I apologize for interrupting you, but I thought about the homeless camp, I thought about the boots, and then when Brooke said that about when you said boots don't come off that fast, I'm from Flint, Michigan, so we don't wear cowboy boots around here, so I would have no idea about cowboy boots. But that of him showing up on a camera, then he came up missing, and then there was these two guys standing over by the river, and then when the cops came by, then they walked off. Like, that's some suspicious activity. Living in Flint, Michigan, that's some suspicious activity. I've seen some things go down that I'm not very proud of, but in situations like this is very helpful because I can look outside of the box and say that kid was a target, and he was the perfect target.
yeah, like a victim of opportunity, right? Um,
For
and
some,
the
for some reason, I don't think the homeless community is responsible. Reason being is they just want to do their own thing. If they get a $5 bill, they get a $5 bill. If someone, brings them a sandwich, out of the restaurant, that's fine. They're not going to kill someone over $5. They might rob the shit out of them.
Mhm.
But I mean, I just don't see it. There's something else going on here. There's a piece of this puzzle that is way out there. And I'm
Well,
from Oklahoma, born and bred. And if you know about cowboy boots, you know about cowboy boots.
right. And I wasn't so much thinking that they were responsible as much as where I was going with that was it was known to be like a dangerous camp. I'm not saying that all people are like that,
Oh, no, 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 no,
but
no.
but the things that they said, I think should be given more credibility on the witnesses that came forward because what reason would they have to lie about it? Now, as far as the cowboy boots go, I don't believe that the water would take off a belt, blue jeans, boots, and leave somebody's boxer shorts on. I just don't buy that. That's just my opinion.
Doesn't make any sense. No, you and I are right on the same page. And as far as thinking outside the box and opening our eyes to what go on in different communities, y'all found the right place because we discuss everything and everything. All right, so it was put into chat, and I apologize, I missed who said it. Most dry drownings are children.
That's right.
That I would not know. I'm still kind of new into this criminal world, and it's just so fascinating to me. But the information I looked into, it was very, very, very odd for it to happen.
Right. And I mean, I can't even imagine. In
Well,
Oklahoma,
don't you go ahead.
yesterday, a little boy, 3 years old, a toddler, got out of his parents' sight, his mother's sight, and he was recovered from a pond. And 3 years old, fell in. Well, guess what? His belly and his lungs were full of water.
Yeah, there may be something up to what happened before him and the other fraternity brothers went out and about to start what they were doing. I think it's very odd that they kind of I heard allegedly that they lawyered up. And according to the parents, from what I've heard, there's been nothing but crickets. Um, and that to me seems kind of weird.
DT driver said the water would have actually suctioned his boots to his feet.
Yep.
And that's the truth. If you've ever walked out in your cowboy boots and you're going through the water, it's almost impossible to get them off.
Mm-hmm.
They're not flip-flops.
No.
Hold that thought. Let's go through this.
What Riley was wearing.
Unfortunately, the only thing that was found with him, as the police stated in the report, was the watch and the shirt. Everything else was not with him when he was found.
So the concern there clearly, Henna, is the fact that he was found half naked from the waist down and then there was no water in his lungs. So his parents and his family are really looking for some more information.
Do authorities know how he got in the water in the first place, Caitlin? I know there's so many questions around this case.
There are a lot of questions, Henna, and if authorities do know, they're not telling us. But from kind of the get-go, we've been concerned that something may have gone wrong with him, perhaps stumbling into the river, because you see this kind of timeline of where he was last seen. He was last seen on some surveillance camera, sort of stumbling around, and he was walking towards the direction of that river. So there is kind of a presumption that perhaps he may have fallen in, but we don't know for sure. And honestly, I don't think we're going to have an answer about whether or not he was intoxicated because it's been so long since he went missing.
Does the family suspect foul play?
Well, I think they just want answers. I think the big question here is, why wasn't there water in his lungs if he is presumed to have drowned? Now, we don't know for a fact whether or not the autopsy results will say he drowned, but that's a question. But also the way he was found is a concern. A forensics expert told News Nation some interesting details about how he would have approached this. Take a look at what Joseph Scott Morgan had to say.
Anytime that we have someone that is unclad, particularly in the lower body, it's rather provocative when you begin to think about it. And so we take a harder look at those kinds of cases because any number of things can at least be implied. We have to follow that line of logic to its finality.
Had two forensic experts on that day, and the other one answered the second question of why there may not have been water in his lungs, and does that mean he didn't drown? But there's two ways to drown. There's actually something called dry drowning. When you wet drown, you expect to have, you ingest that water, you basically breathe it in. But something called a laryngospasm is what happens when you, what's called dry drown. And that's when the water comes in, your body automatically reacts by closing up the airways, which means the water's not getting in, but neither is any oxygen. So we're going to have to wait to see those full autopsy results from both the police and that secondary autopsy.
Well, good luck on that. All right. At Luke Bryant's bar, thank you, Sassy Cats, for the comment. She said, I wear cowboy boots, and trust me, it's a struggle to get them off. Okay. It was said that he ordered a rum and Coke. Very simple drink, right?
Mm-hmm.
I was a bartender, so.
I didn't hear the bartender say it because, I mean, his receipt, it said KB and it had numbers after it. Well, KB is a curveball and he didn't buy it. So, and he got 2 glasses of water. This is curveball whiskey. This could be why he was tasting barbecue.
That looks good, actually.
So what?
Some spicy beers and stuff out like that now, so I believe it.
So let's see what his family had to say.
Had not gone to the police when they called you?
Not that I am aware of.
Were you surprised?
Yes.
The fraternity brothers had not gone to the police when they called you?
Not that I am aware of.
Were you surprised?
Yes. Because why wouldn't they?
Amen.
Why wouldn't they have called the police when they got back at 3:15 in the morning and didn't see him then? Why wouldn't they have called the police? I don't know.
So 7 or 8 hours had gone by from the time they got back to the hotel to when they called you. Do you have any idea why they didn't call the police until then?
I don't know.
We called them on the way down, and it was probably close to 12 o'clock, and they were just going to the sheriff's detention center, to the sheriff's office to report him missing that was probably 12:15, 12:30, somewhere in there.
So 2 more hours had gone by from the initial call.
Yeah.
They still hadn't gone
Yeah.
to the police.
Yeah. 14 hours after his last ping over his phone was.
Do you think they were just scared, or do you have any idea why?
It's $1 million question.
So what happened when you got to Nashville?
So when we got there, all the boys.
Now, hang on. The stepfather said it's really not a question. Now, that would be his own speculation because he's not a detective, but I want to hear that again.
Gone by from the initial call.
Yeah.
They still hadn't gone
Yeah.
to the police.
Yeah. 14 hours after his last ping over his phone was.
Do you think they were just scared, or do you have any idea why?
It's $1 million question.
Oh, he said that's the $1 million question. I
That's
apologize.
what I thought he said too, $1 million question. I feel like he's trying to be like Chris Proudfoot to just kind of aim that in there a little bit, because that was the weirdest thing ever.
So what happened when you got to Nashville?
So when we got there, all the boys were out. Well, not all the boys, but several of the boys were out front with a police officer. And we had to finish filling out the report. So we completed that, and the boys stayed out for a while. And then they all of a sudden disappeared, all of the boys. And they ended up back out a little while later in their dress clothes to go out to their formal that night.
They went to the formal?
Yeah.
Okay.
Wow.
That troubles me quite a bit.
Yeah.
They're on vacation with their friend. He is missing. The parents are en route to Nashville to find out what's going on. And they get dressed up and go to their formal. Now, I don't know what their formal is, considering they're not at school unless they were heading back to Missouri. I need more clarification on that. I'm not here to be the all-knowing, okay? Well, they wouldn't get dressed up for their formal and head back to Springfield, Missouri, so they were going to something. What the hell is going on? I'm going to start with Kristen. What do you think?
I believe I can do two sides of it. I can do the side of they look pretty suspicious. Why, when the boy that walked out to the door with him didn't follow him? I know as a friend, I would not want to leave my teammate definitely out in Tennessee. So I can definitely see where the parents could feel a little hurt by the brothers. They definitely made sure that they enjoyed their time in Tennessee without blinking an eye of looking for Riley. And then I can see where, as a 24-year-old, maybe they're not really thinking all the way. You know, we all been young and
well, 22 and under. Not every there's no 24-year-olds that were, I mean, unless someone joined them later. And it was not a school function. This was spring break.
And wasn't it a fraternity?
Yeah, but they just went together. They're hanging out. It's spring break.
Okay, so nope, I take that back. So I can still see where the boys are like, oh, you know, I'm still down here. It's spring break, you know, we have to remember that their brains aren't all the way developed at that age. They don't develop a lot till they're a lot older. And I know we would like to say we raised them that way, but not all the time are they going to think that way. But I definitely do find it concerning. Even as a parent, if I was a parent of one of the boys, I think I would even want to be involved. So I am a little concerned by it.
Angel, what do you think?
Well, I've thought and thought about it, and I guess the way I'll say it is, it appears, this is just my opinion, it appears they didn't want to get involved. And you have to ask yourself why. Is that because they have some type of knowledge about something that may have occurred at the hotel before they started out for that evening? That's just my opinion.
That's a very good thought. And on one hand, you want to scream and say, weren't you raised better? I mean, my goodness, you're in a fraternity, you know, several of you are about to graduate and you go about your life as if nothing's going on. I mean, you can't be that ignorant. I mean, brains developed or not, what the hell is going on?
Right.
It's going to be very telling as to who actually bought the drink for him.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
I just can't believe they left him by himself.
I mean, these are his fraternity brothers?
Mm-hmm. Fraternity brothers, roommates, friends from high school. We spent the next 4.5 hours searching every emergency room to see if he was in the hospital. We come back and they're coming back, some of them from the party, and they're waving at us as we're sitting in the truck. How's that make you feel?
I would have thought they would have all banded together like a search group that night.
Yeah, 150, 160 of them on the ground, you know, there from all different chapters. And, you know, they told us that
It was a fraternity. That's what I thought. And that's what makes me so.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. It's a fraternity, but they're from all different chapters. They're on spring break. It has nothing to do with the college. I mean, they're there for their own, it's a vacation, their own fruition.
Yeah, but fraternities stay together forever. Like I know some, you know, of my kids that are not my kids, my cousins that went to college, and they've stayed friends with these people for years. So that looks horrible for that fraternity.
Or the different chapters. But
Correct.
the number he's giving out, 150, 160, they're roommates, they're high school friends. Would you not comb the city? And several of them lawyered up before they got back to Missouri. This is not a good look. Sorry, it's just not a good look. I'm not saying they did anything, but it's not a good look. Who could even function that night? Developed brain or not? Hell, they're smart enough to be graduating in a couple of months from college, and these aren't easy degrees. This is crazy.
they were there. All of them were there if we needed them. We didn't know what we needed at that point in time, but you would have thought that, you know, they would have at least been out searching, trying to do something. It wasn't.
Or something.
So the night after he went missing, you were out searching, and the fraternity brothers were partying. What were you thinking?
We weren't very happy with them, to say the least. It's appalling.
You all received a letter from someone else who was staying at the same hotel, who described a little bit of what they heard that night that Riley went missing. I just want to read part of it. At first, I thought it was a bunch of drunk college kids being jealous of girlfriend-boyfriend stuff, but it was too loud and went on too long. They were in halls. I could hear them between the walls. The doors for the hotel rooms are very heavy, so they slam when you let them shut. I woke up at 3:15 a.m. to numerous doors slamming, kids in the hall, both boys and girls, having very loud discussions, going back and forth from rooms multiple times. It was like new kids kept showing up on the floor during the entire period. These kids were freaking out about something. Were you ever able to find out what was going on in the hotel that night?
From one of the friends that I talked to this week, apparently he had hurt his hand that night. Didn't really specify what he had done, but apparently it had to do with a hurt hand that night. And people being emotional about it. Apparently it didn't have anything to do with Riley.
Do you think there's information that his frat brothers have that they're not sharing?
I would.
Britt said, and that's when the kid claims it was all over his hand injury. Well, for him to have a hand injury, what did he punch? And I don't believe a bunch of drunk people are going to worry about anyone's hand. They might sit back and laugh about it like, oh, bro, you fucked your hand up. No, there's something else going on there.
I feel like, yes, maybe. No, I mean, I haven't sat down and talked to any of them to say, tell me your whole entire story. Would I like that? Yeah, yes, it would be nice.
Now that you've found Riley, do you feel like you have a different purpose in terms? I mean, do you want to know everything that happened? Is there like a hole? How would you describe it?
Of course, there's a hole in my heart. There always will be. And we may never know what happened that night, and that makes it even worse for me. But yeah, I would like to know everything that happened that day.
Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find.
Sunset Gazing said they freak out about a hand injury, but not about a missing person. Make that make sense, my friends.
It doesn't make sense. And the more we break into this case, the more I really think that something suspicious happened to Riley. And I hope that we can figure it out.
And we also have the very strange text that came from Riley's phone. But it comes down to just normal how humans act. You guys are all freaking out about one person's hand, but not that you don't have eyes on Riley. What do you think about that, Angel?
Well, I think maybe that's a cover for what they were really freaking out about.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You know, how did his hand get injured? You know, that's for a group of people that age to be running around in the hallways and changing rooms and going in and out and freaking out after being out, you know, having a good time. Sounds to me like something very serious would have happened, not just a hand injury.
Well, that, and it reminds me, I went to Washington, D.C. in high school, and that's the stuff we did in high school. You guys are graduating college. Like, something must have major happened for you to act like children.
Well, the fact that not one person cared that he was thrown out of the bar, isn't the saying bros before hoes?
Yep.
And you make sure your friend gets where they need to go safely.
It's
absolutely.
I mean, Angel, think about it. Say you and I are out partying, and they tell me to get the hell out. Would you be like, all right, well, I showed her the door?
Heck no, I'd be going out with you. That's just normal common sense, in my opinion. Or just being a friend, or just being, you know, you see somebody getting kicked out, you're there with them, I assume, or you know of that person. You're gonna go with them. You're gonna be concerned about getting them back to the hotel.
Don't forget frat brothers. They're frat brothers. They're supposed to be doing everything together. I keep bringing up the frat because frats are different. I know it's got different chapters and different colleges and stuff like that, but you guys are frat brothers.
They're all the same. I mean, to the point, your frat brothers up until, I mean, hell, up until your 70s, 80s. I mean, seriously. My son was in a fraternity. He still will give job recommendations to people. And the fraternity that they were all in says volumes. I think there's another thing here that we could be missing. And it's these people that they keep around to keep them happy to have a good time. Just I think it could be a little bit more than some selfish frat brothers that just wanted to continue the party and thought that he would just wander his way back to where he needed to be. But I digress.
Well, all I'm going to say is there's a reason that that song is written.
Mm-hmm.
You know, people have experiences with things, and a lot of the songwriters, you know, they write their music based upon experiences that they've had. And there is a thing down there with the, you know, I'll just say this, okay? Allegedly, there was, I'm not saying in this particular case, but there was like a partnership going on, for lack of a better term, with bartenders, the bouncers, and the girls.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you can probably figure out what I'm trying to say.
You bet. I totally agree with you. And we're just going to watch and see how this develops. And, they raised Riley. They raised him right. But it's got to be two things. Well, I mean, shit, there could be 100 things. Who knows? But I'm telling you something right now. That bar in particular has had issues with people being escorted out. Damn it! I forgot today's Wednesday. Damn tornado sirens going off. I get so sick of them testing that shit. And now OJ's going to be pissed for the rest of the day because he's trying to take a nap.
Oh, no.
Yeah, they do it every Wednesday around noon.
I can't wait to come down to Oklahoma. I've never been there, but you are just making me one of the biggest fans of Oklahoma, Brooke. I'm loving your state.
Oh, hang on. Now Linda's walking across the street as if she's never heard one. God damn it. I don't need her today. All right, you guys are the absolute best. This thing's going to go off for the next 20 minutes. And so I don't want you guys to have your ears blared out. But I want to say thank you very much for Kristen for coming on panel. Angel,
I'll work on getting better information so I come on and look a little bit smarter.
Oh, hell, nobody here is the all-knowing. We just discuss and just go forward. And what we know, we know. What we don't, we just ask.
I just have to get this out there, and I didn't get to talk about it with Sebastian Rogers, but that darn mannequin in the middle of the woods, I have thought about that every day since I've listened to that 911 tape, and it just makes me want to go and ask Sheriff Dewey, because that's what I call him, why haven't any of these quality evidence that you're finding in the middle of the woods? Like, I asked my friends around here, like, do you have a mannequin in your garage? And people are like, no. And I'm like, exactly. Like, what the heck?
I know, exactly. We'll save that thought for the next show on Sebastian. And again, I appreciate you guys being here. I truly do. Hang on. Jules of All Trades said they were on spring break. So what was the formal about? We have to find this out, Jules of All Trade, because there's something more about that. They're going to a formal. So I'm wondering who really sponsored this trip. They didn't all just pile in some damn El Camino, shoulder to shoulder. I think this was a fraternity sponsored trip, but I can't prove it. But I know I can prove that you guys are amazing people. You're here for all the right reasons, and there is nothing wrong. Don't let these other channels shame us when we get together and say simple things like the math ain't mathin'. But I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your hump day, and I will see you back here tomorrow. Me love you long time.
See you later.
Bye.